Hello, hello. I'm going to approach a topic that's terrifying for me as a man, to be vulnerable about some stuff and to make some statements about how women approach me. Not that I expect to be challenged, but I just find that the wounds are so great sometimes that they can brutally attack on occasion when they get triggered, even though I'm not going to say anything angry or frustrated. I've been outside a primary relationship for quite a while. I had a divorce, about 8 years ago now. And I've tried dating. I've tried engaging at a whole bunch of different levels with women of my age. I'm 52 years old right now, and there's a lot of societal judgment about older men loving younger women, but there's a reason for that. A lot of the older women are very angry and judgmental, and it kind of springs out when they get triggered or when things get heavy, and it gets projected as back upon us. And maybe that's my experience, but when your heart is soft and you're open and you're gentle and you're trying to re-engage in love as a awakening man and to engage with emotion and to be vulnerable, we don't have our shields up. We don't put a big pile of armor up. I don't hide anything. And I've been finding it very hard lately to engage at any level. The reason we're drawn to younger women is there's less baggage, there's less armoring, there's less past trauma or less struggle, and then they feel more pure and innocent and maybe a little bit safer to engage in if at this level, and they haven't been hardened by the world. And I know we've all been hardened, and I've been as hardened as anybody in my past experience. I actually chose not even to date or be sexual with anyone until 30, because I saw this world that was so mangled up, and it was all about loving outside of ourselves and chasing and playing games, and I couldn't engage. It just terrified me, and it made no sense. Then I found a woman who's my wife, and we had 3 beautiful children, and it felt perfectly right. But now that filtered away over time. There's a bunch of trauma present that I couldn't help with, and it caused me to choose, for love of self, to step away and let each of us grow in a beautiful way. And it's left me to explore myself and understand what I want. And I'm now wandering around as a mostly self-aware man, trying to engage with people that are terrified. They're worried they're going to get their ex to show up again. They're worried about doing any inner work, or that stuff will show up. And I'm beautifully equipped to help anyone that's willing to be able to walk through those things, but that I keep finding that's scary to people, that people are confident enough and self-loving enough to be able to hold the space for someone through anything. And I guess I shine a light. People are telling me more and more that I shine a light that will open people and will encourage them to go and explore themselves. And I just get so confused how what I see as a man that's done his work and is ready to engage with these women that are begging for it, the very women that were begging for it aren't even comfortable with having someone. I read all these posts. There's not a lot about men being posted in this way, but of these awakened women and how they'll catalyze you and change you and force you to do your work on a man. But what's a man that is in that same place? And then they challenge me and trigger me and try and turn my stuff against me when it's theirs. And that's where projection comes from and this kind of stuff. And it's become very big task to be able to dig out from all the stuff that's projected on a man that's done his work. It's like, oh, you're too direct and you're too this, or you're too loving, or you're too open, or you're too vulnerable, you're too emotional, you're too whatever. But really, those are all reflections of themselves. I can only be what I am inside, and to be able to allow those things to flow and those emotions to come through me and those energies to pass through really quickly is a gift, and it's a symbol of a man that's done his work and is ready to slay the dragon or go do whatever's going on immediately. But I think women are looking for a man that's just going to be hard and will listen and take whatever shit she throws and not be human at the same time. So I struggle with no longer trying to pervert myself or change myself to be attractive to women, but now just choosing my directness and my openness and my communication and my vulnerability to express how I'm feeling and state what feels uncomfortable and what's, I think, is projection maybe sometimes, or being the pure reflection that's needed, that I really honestly feel is the thing that these women that are saying they're awakened want. But yet I get labeled and I get trashed and I get told I'm not ready and all these kind of things. And I really got a mixed message now. And today it came up really hard. I was in tears because I have someone that I was attracted to. She's younger than me, and I was interested and I wanted to say something, but terrified at the same time that maybe I misread and her touching me and being really soft and vulnerable with me is just an expression of femininity and politeness and not an attraction. And then to go in and women sometimes call that like harming, that we're following an energy that we feel that wasn't felt the same way because there's so little communication, that now it spooks us to even approach it all. How do you love in a world where nobody's direct about what they want or need or desire, or that it's okay to say, hey, I'm interested in get to know you better. Is that okay? And not to make that some kind of crazy affront or some kind of abuse or too direct or whatever. It's made it next to impossible for us to engage and explore possibility. And what's wrong with saying, hey, I'm not interested and that isn't what I intended or whatever, and instead of worrying about hurt feelings and how the other person's going to feel and then kind of giving them a mixed message, I'd far prefer to know that, oh, I just really like talking to you or whatever. But when you reach out and touch someone, is that not a level of intimacy? Is that not a level of directness that's asking for more? I had a conversation yesterday with a woman where people in service industry, especially waitresses and stuff like that, it's become this like entertainment industry of clients and making them interested, and maybe even their women are taking their rings off or whatever, even though they're married, just so that the tips can be higher. And it just creates this really mixed message when you're out exploring, and that the directness of intention or what's going on, or the fact that they've been had to do that to be able to make extra tips because they only get minimum wage or whatever. It's a nasty mess that the whole industry is in, with people that are very personal all the time, and they're talking to you. And so how do you engage that? Or do you just ignore it, or must assume that it's something different or whatever? How do you explore that? How do you go deeper? I had that woman say, hey, I really like when you come by, and I really enjoy it, and that kind of stuff. She didn't have to say those things. Is that an invitation? Is that me misreading it and she's just friendly? This is how confusing it is for men. How do we get invited in? How do we know that a woman wants more without playing some crazy ass game of trying to read between the lines and this kind of stuff? There's a lot of that. I think men are much more direct about their interest, but women have been taught to have the man chase you and get him interested in you and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know how to play that game. I don't know how to go there without a massive amount of mixed messages. I just want to know that somebody's interested, and we can have a conversation about to what level and to share. But I don't even know that that's on the table sometimes, unless you're getting into like communities where it's very spiritual and very open and flowy. How does a man approach? How does a man approach without making uncomfortable or having a mixed message? Is there a way that we can state our interest and have a sign without creating a discomfort, or, oh, that's too direct, or I didn't mean it that way, or whatever, without it being some kind of shame or wound created or whatever? Because a lot of us men, we don't want to propagate the shit that's gone on in the past. We want to start new, but I really think women have to be part of the solution and say how they want to be approached and what would feel good and how to make an invitation so that we can go further. And I'm not talking further like directly to sexuality. I'm talking about just having a conversation, maybe going out for a coffee, maybe something like that. So then you can start talking about deeper stuff or touching or hugging or just simple stuff that our bodies are so lacking, but we have no frame other than dating and all this mangled mess that doesn't even isn't direct. So I'm not trying to show my wound here, but it's very close to some of my past wounds. I'm just trying to frame the thought process, the vulnerable thought process of a man right now that's trying just to meet someone at a loving level and to explore going deeper without any harm, without any discomfort for either party. And that discomfort includes me. Like to sit there and get thrashed all the time or rejected all the time or whatever, or have a woman please me because she's worried she'll reject me. There's just this nasty mess that's underneath that is filled with a whole bunch of traumas and past stories and past energies that I really just want to set down and start fresh with people that want to start fresh as well, that want to be loving and want to explore connection and go deeper, but from a truth, a full communication, intimacy, not intimacy like sexuality. I'm talking about being vulnerable and saying who you are and being really happy and excited about who you are. And then you can share that with a person and no worrying or wondering what they think or whatever, because you're just honest. And I don't feel there's a ton of honesty. Everybody's looking for honest people, but at the same time, everybody's holding back and judging and all these things. And I don't know how to get through it. So I just vulnerably am putting it out there, and at the risk of being seen as a too vulnerable or too emotional man, fuck that. If you think it's easy to do this, or that this isn't part of an evolved man, then I'm really sad for you. But it's been really hard to keep this loving, self-reflecting part when so much wants to trash me. So I'm standing here in reverence of women and making an invitation, trying to find a new way to connect, to create relationship that doesn't have the old games, the old stories, and maybe asking, because I'm doing it right now, is just to throw out the old stuff that hasn't worked and all the old wounds and all the old pain, so that we can all rebuild and have something much more innocent and playful and direct in communication, so that we can start to have what we want and love what we want and welcome it in, because now there's no game, there's no story, there's no past that we're dealing with of somebody else's ex or whatever, and we're now somehow labeled, and vice versa. That can go towards women as well. Just trying to find that place, and who wants that place, and who wants to reset all that old stuff. We're at a time where it's perfectly perfect to do that. So I'd ask you to throw out the old stories, men and women, anything that doesn't feel good, and start fresh and pure. And I'm doing that by putting it all out on the table, make it be seen and witnessed, so that other people can realize this is the opposite half, or this is similar to what I feel, and then we can say this isn't working for us anymore, and let's move on. And I hope that's where we end with this. And how do we make that invitation? I'd love to hear other people's comments and ideas, and how do we do that in a loving way that allows new possibility? Because that's what we're all looking for, is new possibility, to release and reset the old patterns and the old games and the old bullshit, so that now we can start in love, and we can start from connection and depth and self-love. So I hope this resonates, and I love you all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the people that listened over the course of this. Have a good night. Love you all. Thank you, Holly.